Alright, so in today's video, we are going to be going over the fights within Dokkan Battle and kind of ranking them on a tier scale here. You can see that we have the top scale being what I think is the hardest fight in the game, and we'll be getting towards that towards the end of the video. We have difficult fights. We have the tier below that, which is can lose, which means you can get caught with something and you'll be relatively like, it's possible to lose. Unlucky if you lose being the tier below that. You just get caught with a bad super, or there's an AoE somewhere that gets you. I think that's a fair kind of perspective. The tier below that being not free but easy, and then the tier below that being free, that if you have a competent team, you are not going to lose. So let's just start with some of the easier ones, and that is going to be the red zone fights. So these are going to be the OG red zone fights from about 2022. Red zone Turles, he's free. Not going to really dwell on a lot of these. Red zone Cooler or Slug, he's free. You're free. You're free. We're not going to put free in here because, yeah, we'll do that with Red Zone Bojack because he can lock you. This is fairly free. And then Red Zone Broly, I'm going to put you in the Ken lose category just because of that AoE super phase. Legic, shout out to the homie Mr. Baby. This is, I don't even remember who this is, but he's free. Rildo is, we'll say not free, but easy because he can lock. Baby we'll put in that tier as well. Super 17 because he absorbs supers. The Shadow Dragon one I'm going to put in here because it's free, and then Red Zone Omega is going to be the same case. So there we go. I think that is the red zone, the first red zones out of the way. We're going to put the Wicked Bloodline ones in the same kind of perspective here, where they're all not free, but they're fairly easy. And then the Metal Cooler one, a Metal Cooler core, you do have to get a little bit unlucky to lose. Now, I'm going to go ahead and call, we're getting through these initial ones pretty quick because there's not really too much to talk about anymore with these fights. But we'll call this one free. This one is going to be the same thing. You're going to be a little bit trickier. You're going to be, we'll put unlucky if you lose. The same thing with the Gam. Now, we'll put that one in easy. Red Zone Cell Max, you can lose 100%. And then with the Dismal Future ones as well, I'd say you unlucky if you lose. Same thing with this Cell. I'm gonna call that one unlucky if you lose. Red Zone Goku Black, you 100% still can lose. Same thing with this one. This fight is definitely difficult. Red Zone Zamasu, I'm sure you guys know about that one. Red Zone Tao, I think is easy. Wheelo, I think is easy. Broly, I think is pretty easy. Bio Broly, I think is pretty easy. And then we're also going to be having Harudegarn. I'm going to put that one in the can lose category. Now, we're going to be doing the same thing with Red Zone Beerus. I believe this guy we can put in the can lose category. I think that's fair. And then it's going to be the same thing with Red Zone Golden Frieza. I think that is a fair kind of assessment. Now we've sort of reached the point where we've got the red zone all out of the way, and we can start talking about some of the actual harder fights within the game, because we've gotten basically everything up to the 9th anniversary out of the way. But when there is one thing we need to account for, and that is the Shadow Dragon fights as well. So let's go ahead and just get that in now. I think Sin is pretty easy, but you can get unlucky and you can lose, and it's the same thing with Omega. I'd borderline call this difficult, but I think what we're going to do, and keep in mind this is from an endgame player sense, I'm going to put Omega in the can lose category. I think that's about fair for him. And then Tech Cell Max, I know the quality is very low in this render. I apologize for that tier list error there. But I'm going to put it in unlucky if you lose, because it is possible for you to lose. So we'll put him right there. And then the STR Cell Max we'll talk about a little bit later. So now we've kind of gotten all of the newer fights here into their own little tier, right? Now, let's go ahead and talk about this. God Goku and the Supreme Battle Spectacle. Let's actually pull these up so we can kind of talk about them as we go, and we can look at the stats and all that fun stuff, and I think that will kind of really give us a good gauge on where these events are. You can see this is super zoomed in, so we might have to zoom out a little bit here in a moment. But if we go to, where is the Supreme Battle Spectacle? It's right here. And then we go against Super Saiyan God Goku. Where this gets a little bit tricky is right here, because we've got tech is not as advantageous as you'd want it to be. I don't think this fight is too hard for superheroes, but I'm going to put this one in unlucky if you lose. I don't think that fight is too bad. I think that's a fair placement for them. Let's go ahead and move off from that fight. I think that one's just all right. And I think it's the same thing with this one, right? The super only being 1.6. I know that seems like a lot, but it's really not that bad, all things considered. Like, yeah, I think it's the same thing with this one. You can lose, but I'm going to say unlucky. If you lose, you just get caught with a bad super. And it's not really inherently difficult, right? Now we kind of get into the more difficult side of things. And I know it seems like I keep saying that, but it's true. With this Kaioken Blue Goku, I don't know if difficult. Yeah, I'm going to say this fight's difficult. I think that's fair. I think this is a tricky one. If we look right here, he's got a 1.6 million super that's going to be raising his attack. So he's going to be going up to 900,000 attack. And it's pretty tough, right? You can't seal him. You can lower his attack though, which is helpful. And you're probably, but the problem is like those first couple turns is going to be rough. And considering he could double super, I think this fight is difficult, right? There are obviously ways to work around it. And the best team for all of these fights is going to be able to work around it a decent bit. But I think with that attack raise and everything that he's doing, especially with the typing and stuff like that, physical is not in the best spot right now. And it kind of does make it a little bit tricky. But again, with the attack lowering and stuff like that you can do, it is a little bit easy to work around, but it's not always going to happen that way. So I think that's fair. The next fight that we have on this list is the Supreme Battle Spectacle stage versus Trunks. Now, I think Trunks so far is the hardest fight that we have talked about on the list. This guy is interesting. I actually really like this fight because it is a moderate challenge, right? I think this one's really tough. And it's mainly just right here, especially in this spot right here. If you guys have played this, I'm sure you know at this point that locking is like one of the most toxic things a boss can do. I think locking is super dumb, just because it feels like it's kind of out of your control. But the kind of counterplay to that is that you just don't float units you don't want to get locked, right? So if you're running like the superheroes team, right, you can't float the age or the physical blue boys going into the second phase because you know there's a high chance that they're going to get locked in slot 1, and then that is going to create a problem for you, right? And especially when we get right here, where look at this phase right here, right? So it's like when we get to that second phase and we finally get out of there, it's like, sure, we can lower this guy's attack, but if we get like his super, he has a 63% chance to super right away, and it's, oh, I'm pretty sure it's always the first attack or something like that. I forget, but I know he, look at, like, he raises his attack up to 1.5 million after he supers after doing a 2.25 million super attack, right? So combine that with locking in phase 2, and you've got yourself a pretty difficult fight, man. Like, that one's tough. Now, these guys, right? I think this one is a little bit tougher, right? I want to be fair to the bosses, not to the bosses, but just to like the way they thought these would work. But the problem with these two is you can run Tech Caulifla and God Goku. I'm going to call these free. I think these are free. Like, I had no problems with these. No. I'm going to put unlucky if you lose. Let me be fair. Let me be fair. They're like kind of difficult, but they're kind of not, because you can run Tech Caulifla and God Goku. And that essentially makes it pretty easy. But I also want to give credit because, you know, those bosses do hit pretty hard if I'm not mistaken. You know, we like 1.7 like lowers your defense by 80%, can't be debuffed, 630,000. It's just you've got Caulifla, right? And Caulifla, I really can't understate how important that Caulifla is, right? So just keep that in mind as we continue to talk about this. That is kind of how that one's going to go. So just keep that in mind as we keep moving. And it's the same thing with this UI Goku, can seal you and stuff like that. But Tech Caulifla is just such a game changer, and it just makes things so much easier. So now, I think what these are trying to stand for is the Super Memorial Battle ones, for like the tier list right here, because it doesn't really say up on this one. So that's what we're going to be counting them as, the Super Memorial. Now, if we go look at the stats of these, I kind of need a quick refresher on these fights because it's been a minute since I've played those. I just want to make sure we're all... No, because these would be... So, yeah, we'll come back to these, actually. We'll come back to this Gogeta later. These are from the Supreme Battle Spectacle, so I want to come back and talk about these later, if I'm not mistaken. So, right up here, this guy right here, this is going to be the Dragon Ball Super Broly one. Now, if we go to the Memorial Battle, we can talk about this a little bit more in depth. We have versus Broly, and then the last phases are at the Broly trio. The only thing tough about this one is it does disable evasion, so Gogeta's taunt is a little bit trickier, but all in all, I don't think this one's too bad. Considering it's STR, like, Beast is just going to absolutely run through this one. So, because it disables dodge, I'm going to call this one can lose, but I'm not going to put it on the tier of difficult. And then for the Gogeta Blue portion of this, like I said, it's kind of been a minute since I've played these ones, but I'm pretty sure the Memorial Battle is not too bad. The super does come in for 2 million though, and it does lower defense. You can't debuff. Yeah, we're gonna call this one. This is definitely, I'm gonna call that one difficult. And I think it would kind of be the same thing with the Gammas, where you can get caught, but it's not going to happen every time, right? Now, these guys right here, these are supposed to be for the 9th anniversary battle, if I'm not mistaken. So Beast Gohan, Superhero Base Gohan. So Superhero Base Gohan, yeah. SSR AGL Broly equals 9th anniversary. SSR Beast Gohan equals 9th anniversary battle. So Beast Gohan, Superhero Base Gohan. I guess this one is going to stand for the Memorial Battle 1, and it's going to be the same thing, where we'll put that one in difficult with the same tier. And then for the last ones, we have the 9th anniversary battle. I think the same thing is going to go for these two, where I'm going to put these guys in the can lose category, where they can be tricky. I'm going to even put Broly up in the difficult one. I think that's fair. This Beast Gohan one's not too bad from what I remember. Now, these are the last ones. The Supreme Battle Spectacle against Beast Gohan, that one is difficult, but really where the difficulty comes from is mainly from the, the Artificial Life Form mission that comes with it. So now, we've kind of put ourselves down to the final two bosses. Now, this one is a toss-up, right? The Cell Max fight, it's difficult, right? We'll put that one above Beast. Here's the problem with this fight to me. Once you get into turn 4, it becomes free. So it's like, turn 1 to 3 Cell Max, easy, right? But the problem is, it's that turn 4. Because once you get to turn 4, it becomes this. And I'm not even being funny. Like, the GT Boss team can no-item run this event. So just keep that in mind, that if the GT Boss team can no-item run an event, that probably means the fight's not too bad. But you also have to remember that it's going to take a lot of RNG to get to that point. And like, when a boss can be debuffed, which a lot of these bosses can be debuffed, this guy, you can essentially just keep him stun locked and stuff like that. So you do have to keep that in mind. I think turn 1 to 3, it's the hardest fight in the game, but once you get out of that turn to 1 to 3, it's so easy. And that is why I have Supreme Battle Spectacle Gogeta at the #1 most difficult fight in the game right now. Now let's go ahead and talk about the Supreme Battle Spectacle version of this fight, so you can kind of get an idea of where I'm coming from with this. Why do I think this is the toughest fight in the game? It's pretty simple. This one has an AoE. And look at this AoE damage, 670,000 with an 100% attack raise. I mean, we're looking at a 1.8 million normals, if I'm not mistaken on that. Even with the taunt and stuff like that, you're going to have to taunt to get around this guy. You're going to have to use Orange Piccolo to get around this guy. And then keep in mind, the phase before that, he has a 2 million super that can happen twice with an attack raise. So 30% on 770,000. You know, you're looking at like 900,000 plus attack coming off of that. It's rough, right? Like this guy, this is, I think, to me, the hardest fight in the game, because it might be a longer fight for stackers and stuff like that, but the fact that it has an AoE, I think, really does kind of put it over the top, where it's like Cell Max individually is probably the most difficult looking boss, but the fact that you can debuff him as hard as you can, really kind of just puts him down a couple tiers or just down a tier for me. So it's like, if you want to finish it like this, you can, but in my opinion, I think we should move it a tier below. But there we go. So this right now is kind of where I have these ranked. Keep in mind, the SSR versions of these are for the, we'll put Beast up here, but we'll do, these are like most of the 9th Annie battles, and then stuff pre-9th Annie, some 9th Annie things, and then here's all the other stuff. So this is the tier list that I have for the hardest fights in the game right now. Let me know what you guys think the hardest fight in the game is. Where did I get anything wrong? Where did I get everything right? Just let me know all those fun things down below. If you did enjoy today's video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe if you are new, consider becoming a channel member to further support me. I'd appreciate it greatly, and I'll catch you all in the next one.